The dead moon hung silently in space, its gray surface scarred by the recent battle. Broken ships and scattered debris created an artificial ring around its equator. In the middle of this destruction, a small salvage ship approached carefully, its running lights dim against the stark battlefield. Inside the ship, Jack Thompson checked his instruments one final time. He had been a salvage operator for 15 years, but something about this battlefield made him uneasy. The fight between the two alien groups had been particularly brutal, leaving behind more wreckage than he had ever seen before. Oxygen levels optimal. Suit pressure stable. Radio check complete. He muttered to himself, going through his pre-walk checklist. His ship's computer beeped in confirmation as each item turned green on his display. Jack pushed off from his pilot's seat and floated toward the airlock. At 45 years old, he wasn't the youngest salvage operator anymore, but experience had taught him to be thorough. He sealed his helmet with a familiar click and activated his magnetic boots. The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss. Jack stepped out onto his ship's hull, the magnetic soles of his boots keeping him anchored. Below him, the moon's surface was a mess of twisted metal and broken dreams. His scanner showed several promising spots where valuable technology might have survived. Just another day at the office, he said to himself, firing his suit's maneuvering thrusters to descend toward the wreckage. The battlefield stretched out before him, pieces of ships reflecting the distant sun's light like broken mirrors. Jack landed next to what looked like a transport ship, its hull split open like a cracked egg. His scanner picked up traces of valuable metals and possibly intact computer cores, exactly what he was looking for. He carefully made his way inside through the breach, his helmet lights illuminating the dark interior. The ship's gravity was dead, and loose items floated everywhere. Jack moved slowly, pushing aside debris and checking his scanner. Then something caught his eye, a faint blip on his life signs detector. "That can't be right," he whispered, tapping the display. The battle had ended 3 days ago. Nothing could have survived that long without power or life support. Yet the signal remained, weak but steady. Following the signal, Jack pushed deeper into the wreck. The internal damage was extensive, with walls buckled and corridors twisted. He had to use his plasma cutter twice to get through blocked passages. The signal led him to what appeared to be a medical bay. The room was a mess, with broken equipment floating everywhere. In the corner, partially hidden under a fallen panel, he saw something move. Jack's light fell on a small figure curled up in what looked like a stasis pod. Through the cracked cover, he could see it was an alien girl. Her skin had a pale blue tint that seemed to shimmer slightly in his light. She couldn't have been more than what humans would consider 14 or 15 years old. The girl's eyes opened slowly, revealing irises that looked like swirling galaxies. She was clearly from the Stellar Confederation, one of the 2 groups that had fought here. Her people were known for their genetic modifications, which explained her unusual appearance. Jack's first instinct was to back away. The law was clear: no interference in alien conflicts. Salvage operators were strictly forbidden from getting involved. If he helped her, he could lose his license. If the Pure Domain found out he had helped one of their enemies, they might do much worse. The girl moved slightly, and he saw she was badly injured. A piece of metal had pierced her side, and her breathing was shallow. Her eyes met his, and he saw no fear in them, only a quiet acceptance of what she thought was her fate. At that moment, Jack knew he couldn't leave her. Rules and regulations be damned. He wasn't going to let a child die alone in the coldest space. He carefully removed the panel covering her and spoke softly, even though he knew she probably couldn't understand him. "Don't worry, kid. I'm going to get you out of here." Getting the injured alien girl back to his ship wasn't easy. Jack had to move carefully, making sure not to make her injuries worse. The piece of metal in her side was dangerous. One wrong move could cause more damage. His years of handling delicate salvage items finally came in handy for something more important than spare parts. "Almost there," he said, more to himself than to her. The girl drifted in and out of consciousness as he carried her. Her skin temperature was dropping, and the shimmering blue patterns were becoming duller by the minute. When they reached his ship's airlock, Jack faced his first big problem. The decontamination cycle was automatic and couldn't be skipped. He had no idea how the harsh chemicals would affect her alien biology. "Computer, analyze life form," he ordered as they entered the airlock. "Will standard decontamination harm the patient?" The computer took a moment to respond. "Warning. Unknown species, genetic modifications detected. Standard decontamination may cause adverse reactions." Jack cursed under his breath. He couldn't risk making things worse. "Computer, minimal sanitization only. Override safety protocols. Authorization Thompson Delta 9. Override accepted. Caution advised." The airlock cycled, using only UV light and mild antiseptics. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than nothing. As soon as they were through, Jack rushed the girl to his small medical bay. The medical scanner hummed as it passed over her body. Most of the readings made no sense. Her internal structure was different from anything in the database, but some things were clear enough. She was losing blood, though it was more purple than red, and her vital signs were getting weaker. "Computer, search database for any information on Stellar Confederation biology." Searching. Limited data available. Caution. Helping members of alien factions currently in conflict is prohibited by Salvage Regulation 47B. License revocation and criminal charges may apply. Jack looked at the girl on his medical bed. She was so young, probably someone's daughter. The Stellar Confederation was known for their genetic improvements, which had started this whole war with the Pure Domain. The Pure Domain believed such modifications were an insult to nature. They had attacked the Confederation's ships without warning, calling them abominations. But looking at her now, Jack didn't see an abomination. He saw a child who needed help. "Computer, access emergency medical protocols. Begin basic life support." The medical bay came to life. Soft fields of energy surrounded the girl, helping to stabilize her condition. Jack carefully removed the metal shard from her side, using the computer's guidance to avoid hitting anything vital. The wound sealed quickly with medical foam. As he worked, the girl opened her eyes again. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, she lifted her hand slightly, reaching toward him. Jack took it gently. "You're safe now," he said, knowing she probably couldn't understand his words. But maybe she could understand his tone. The ship's alarm suddenly blared. "Warning. Multiple ships detected entering the area. Signatures match Pure Domain patrol vessels." Jack's heart raced. If they found him with a Confederation survivor, they would assume he was taking sides in the war. Best case, he'd lose his license. Worst case, they'd decide he was an enemy. He looked at the girl again. Her breathing was steadier now, but she was far from healed. He could still take her back, leave her where he found her. No one would ever know. His life would go on as normal. The girl squeezed his hand weakly, those galaxy-like eyes looking up at him with trust. Jack straightened up. "Computer, power up engines. Plot a course away from the Pure Domain ships. Maximum stealth mode." He had made his decision. Whatever came next, he would face it. Some things were more important than rules or licenses. Some things were worth risking everything for. "Hang in there, kid," he said softly. "We're getting out of here together." Jack's ship slipped quietly through space, running dark with only minimal systems active. The Pure Domain patrol ships were still searching the battlefield, but they hadn't spotted him yet. In the medical bay, things weren't going well. "Computer, run another scan," Jack ordered, watching the alien girl's vital signs fluctuate on the screen. The shimmering patterns on her skin were fading in and out like a weak light bulb. "Warning. Patient's cellular structure is destabilizing. Unknown biological process detected. Medical database insufficient for treatment." Jack ran his hands through his gray hair in frustration. Human medical equipment wasn't designed for alien biology, especially not the modified genetics of the Stellar Confederation. He needed to think differently. Looking at the girl's changing skin patterns gave him an idea. During his years of salvage work, he had learned that Confederation ships used bioorganic technology, machines that worked like living things. Maybe her body worked the same way. Computer, stop treating the patient as a biological entity. Instead, analyze her as if she were a malfunctioning bioorganic system. The computer paused, then started a new scan. This time, the readings made more sense. Her body wasn't just bleeding. It was losing energy, like a machine with a power leak. She needs energy, Jack muttered. But what kind? The girl stirred, her eyes opening slightly. She pointed weakly at her chest, then at the lights overhead. Jack watched in amazement as the shimmering patterns on her skin briefly glowed brighter in the light. Of course. Computer, increase ambient light in the medical bay to maximum. Focus full-spectrum illumination on the patient. The room blazed with light. The girl's skin began to shimmer more strongly, the patterns becoming clearer. Her breathing steadied. Cellular stability improving. The computer reported. Patient absorbing electromagnetic energy through modified dermal layer. Jack smiled. You're like a plant, aren't you? Your people modify themselves to absorb energy directly from light. He dimmed the room's lights slightly, finding a comfortable balance. The ship's alarm suddenly buzzed again. Warning. Pure domain vessels changing search pattern. Probability of detection increasing. Jack checked his sensors. 3 warships were moving in a grid pattern, methodically searching the area. They were being thorough, too thorough for a normal salvage check. They're not just looking for survivors, he realized. They're looking for something specific. He looked at the girl, wondering what made her so important. A soft sound made him turn. The girl was trying to sit up. Jack rushed to help her, propping her up carefully. She pointed at his computer console, then at herself. You want to show me something? She nodded weakly. Jack brought over a portable screen. Her fingers, still shaky, moved across it slowly. Using the computer's basic translation program, she typed out 2 words. Star and help. Star, is that your name? She shook her head, then pointed out the viewport at a distant star, then at the pure domain ships. They're looking for something to do with stars. She nodded, then winced in pain. The movement had cost her energy, and her skin patterns began to fade again. Rest now, Jack said, helping her lie back down. Save your strength. We'll figure this out once you're stronger. The ship shuddered slightly as a scan beam from one of the pure domain vessels passed nearby. Jack held his breath, but his stealth systems held. They hadn't been detected, yet. Computer, plot a course to the nearest neutral station. Stay away from major trade routes. Warning, nearest neutral station is 4 days away at stealth speed. Jack looked at the girl, at her brave attempt to help even while injured, at how young she seemed. Then we better hope your light therapy keeps working, and that our luck holds out. He settled into the chair next to her bed, watching both her vital signs and the sensor displays. It was going to be a long 4 days, but they had a chance. Sometimes, that was all you needed. 2 days into their journey, Jack was starting to understand his mysterious passenger better. The girl, who seemed to approve of his nickname Star for her, was getting stronger. The constant light therapy was working, though they had to be careful with the ship's power usage while running in stealth mode. Star sat propped up in the medical bay, her galaxy-like eyes watching curiously as Jack worked on the translation system. He had connected it to a simple drawing program, which made communication easier. So you were some kind of doctor? Jack asked, watching as Star drew pictures on the screen. She nodded, then drew more symbols that the translator interpreted as learning and healer. A medical student, Jack said, understanding. That explains why you knew about the light therapy. Star drew another picture, this one showing the simplified DNA strand with modifications. The translator struggled but managed to form broken sentences from her intended meaning. My people, change bodies, make better, the mechanical voice said. But I, different, not change good. Jack frowned. You mean the modifications didn't work on you? The genetic changes. Star nodded, her skin patterns dimming slightly. Something Jack had learned meant she was sad or upset. She drew more, showing a scene of other aliens turning away from her. They reject, not perfect, the translator said. Say I, danger to pure blood. That's why they left you behind. Jack felt anger rising in his chest. Because you weren't perfect enough for them. Star touched his hand gently, her skin patterns shifting to a calmer rhythm. She drew again, this time showing medical symbols and what looked like research notes. I learn, help others, even without change, the translator conveyed. Find new ways, natural healing. Jack smiled. You found different solutions instead of just following their rules. No wonder they didn't like you. People in power hate it when someone proves them wrong. The ship's computer suddenly interrupted them. Warning, power reserves at 40%. Continued light therapy will impact stealth system efficiency. Star immediately pointed at the lights above her bed, making a lowering motion with her hand. You sure? Jack asked. You're still healing. She nodded firmly, then drew a simple picture of their ship and the pure domain vessels chasing them. The message was clear, better to heal slowly than to be caught. Okay, Jack agreed. Computer, reduce medical bay lighting by 30%. As the lights dimmed, Star began drawing again. This time, she showed a complex diagram of a star system, with specific paths marked between the stars. These are pure domain patrol routes, Jack realized. You're showing me how to avoid them. Star nodded, adding more details to the map. The translator processed her additional notes. They follow patterns. Never change. Too proud. Jack laughed. Their biggest weakness is thinking they're perfect, isn't it? They're so sure of their ways that they never think to change them. Star's skin patterns rippled in what Jack had come to recognize as amusement. She drew a small picture of their ship sneaking past larger vessels. Smart thinking, Jack said. We can use their pride against them. They'll never expect a small salvage ship to understand their patrol patterns. He started inputting the route data into the ship's navigation system. With this information, they had a much better chance of reaching the neutral station safely. Star drew one more picture, a simple image of two stick figures, one human and one alien, standing together. The translator wasn't needed for this message. Yeah, kid, Jack said softly. We do make a pretty good team. He looked at their new route, then at the brave young alien who had trusted him with her life. She wasn't what her people wanted her to be. She was something better. She was herself. Computer, adjust course according to new navigation data, he ordered. Let's show those perfect, pure domain ships how a couple of rejects get things done. The peace didn't last long. On their third day of travel, 5 pure domain ships appeared ahead of them, cutting off their planned route to the neutral station. Computer, full stop. Kill all non-essential systems, Jack ordered, his hands tight on the controls. The ship drifted silently in space, running dark among the stars. In the medical bay, Star was already dimming her skin patterns to help conserve power. She pointed urgently at the sensor display, her galaxy eyes wide with concern. What is it? Jack asked, bringing up the tactical screen. What are they doing? Star's fingers flew across the translation pad. Not random search, the computer translated. They know. We hear. Somewhere. Jack watched the pure domain ships spread out in a pentagon formation. They're trying to box us in. But how did they know this route? Star drew quickly on her pad, showing a string of numbers and symbols. The translator took longer this time. Emergency beacon, inside me. Activate when found. There's a tracker in you. Jack felt his stomach drop. They've been following your signal this whole time. But Star shook her head frantically. adding more to her drawing. Not tracker. Medical data. They find when scanned for power. Jack understood. The pure domain ships were detecting the energy Star's body absorbed from the lights. Her modified biology was like a beacon to their sensors. Computer, how many ships total? He asked. 5 pure domain warships detected. 3 heavy cruisers, 2 patrol vessels. All weapons active. Star tugged at Jack's sleeve, pointing at her dimmed skin patterns, then at the ships. She drew a quick diagram showing energy waves. You want to use your power signature as bait? Jack asked, catching on to her plan. Make them think they know where we are. She nodded, then drew more, showing their small ships slipping through a gap while the pure domain vessels focused on a false signal. It's risky, Jack said. If they catch us, he didn't need to finish. They both knew what would happen. Star's expression was determined. She typed, "Trust me. Know their ways." Jack looked at their options on the tactical display. The pure domain ships were moving closer, tightening their net. Soon they'd be close enough for detailed scans. Okay, he decided. Computer, transfer auxiliary power to the medical bay lights. Full spectrum, 10 seconds on my mark. Star lay back on the medical bed, preparing herself. Her skin patterns began to brighten as she absorbed the energy building in the lights. Ready? Jack asked, his hand on the controls. Star nodded, her galaxy eyes gleaming with determination. Mark. The medical bay blazed with light. Star's skin erupted in brilliant patterns, shining like a beacon. Almost immediately, the pure domain ships turned toward their position. Energy spike detected, the computer reported. Pure domain vessels are locking weapons. Hold it, Jack muttered, watching the enemy ships move. Hold it. Star's patterns were blazing now, almost painfully bright. The pure domain ships moved closer, converging on their position. Now, computer, kill lights, and go to full stealth. Emergency thrust, Vector 7 Mark III. The ship leaped forward as Star instantly dimmed her patterns to nothing. They shot through the gap between 2 pure domain cruisers, running dark and silent. Pure domain vessels are firing on our last position, the computer reported. No pursuit detected. They believe their target is still in the area. Jack let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. On the medical bed, Star was exhausted but smiling. Nice work, kid, he said. You just outsmarted the whole pure domain fleet. Star's patterns flickered weakly in happiness as she typed. Not perfect, but smart. Yeah, Jack agreed, setting course for the neutral station again. Being perfect is overrated anyway. I'll take clever over perfect any day. Behind them, the pure domain ships continued to search empty space, fooled by their own assumptions about how their inferior enemies would behave. After escaping the pure domain ships, Jack was busy checking their new course when he heard a crash from the medical bay. He rushed in to find Star trying to reach something under her bed, her medical sensors beeping in alarm. Hey, take it easy. He helped her back up. You used a lot of energy with that like show earlier. But Star was insistent, pointing at a small metal box that had fallen from her clothes, something Jack hadn't noticed before. Her hand shook as she tried to open it. Here, let me help, Jack said, taking the box. It was made of some strange metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. What is this? Star's fingers moved quickly across her translation pad. Proof, the computer translated. Why they leave me. Not about being different. Jack opened the box carefully. Inside was a small data crystal, glowing with a faint purple light. Star grabbed her pad again, typing frantically. Medical records, the translation appeared. Show truth. Leaders corrupt. Both sides. Both sides. Jack frowned. You mean the pure domain and the Confederation are working together, but they're at war. Star nodded grimly, her skin patterns forming sharp, angry lines. She connected the data crystal to Jack's computer terminal. The screen filled with documents, shipping manifests, and coded messages. "Computer, translate and analyze," Jack ordered. As the computer worked, Star drew a diagram showing money and resources flowing between the two supposedly enemy factions. The translator processed her additional explanation. "Leaders make profit from war. People die. They get rich. They're keeping the war going on purpose," Jack said slowly, anger building in his voice. "The pure domain gets to talk about genetic purity. The Confederation gets to make their modifications, and the leaders on both sides get rich from the fighting." Star typed again. "Found truth when treating leaders. Saw secret messages. Not supposed to. So that's why they abandoned you on the battlefield," Jack realized. "Not because you were defective, because you knew too much." The computer finished its analysis. Documents confirm extensive secret trade between pure domain and stellar Confederation leadership. Evidence suggests artificial prolonging of conflict for financial gain. Star's patterns dimmed with sadness as she typed. "Many die. My people, their people. All for lies." Jack put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "That's why the pure domain ships were searching so hard for you. They're not just afraid you'll survive. They're afraid you'll talk." Star nodded, then suddenly grabbed Jack's arm, her eyes wide with urgency. She typed quickly. "Not safe. Neutral station. They have people there." "We can't dock at the station," Jack asked, but he already knew she was right. If both sides had corrupt officials everywhere, no place was really safe. Star drew a new diagram, a small ship heading to a different location. The translator processed her explanation. "No place. Secret medical facility. Good people. Help expose truth." Jack studied the coordinates she provided. It would mean another 2 days of travel, low on power, through dangerous space. If they were caught now with proof of the corruption, there would be no mercy. He looked at Star, seeing not just an injured alien girl anymore, but a brave soul who had risked everything to expose the truth. She had known the cost of her choice when she saved those files, known what it would mean. "Computer, plot a course to the new coordinates," he ordered. "Keep us in stealth mode." Star's patterns brightened slightly in gratitude. She typed one more message. "Thank you for believing." "Hey," Jack smiled. "What are friends for? Besides, I'm a salvage operator. Saving valuable things is my job." He helped her back to bed, making sure she was comfortable before returning to the pilot's seat. They had the truth now, dangerous as it was, and somehow they would make sure everyone knew it. Behind them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if approving of their mission. The secret medical facility turned out to be hidden inside an asteroid belt. As Jack's ship approached, he saw no signs of life, until a hangar door suddenly appeared in what had looked like solid rock. "They're good at hiding," he said admiringly. Star's patterns flickered in agreement as she sat in the co-pilot's seat, much stronger now, but still recovering. A voice crackled over their radio, speaking in multiple languages before reaching English. "Salvage vessel, you are carrying a Confederation energy signature. State your purpose." Star quickly typed on her pad, and Jack read her message aloud. "We seek the healing path. Truth must shine in darkness." There was a long pause. Then the hangar doors opened fully, warm light spilling out into space. "Welcome, friends. You are expected." Inside, they found not just a medical facility, but a sanctuary. Aliens from both the pure domain and the Confederation worked side by side. Some were modified, some were not, but all were focused on healing rather than fighting. An older alien with silver skin patterns greeted them. The translator identified him as Dr. Light, one of the founders of the sanctuary. "We've heard about you too," he said through the translator. "The pure domain ship that lost a defective prisoner, the human salvage operator who disappeared. You've caused quite a stir." Star stepped forward, presenting the data crystal. Dr. Light's patterns shifted in surprise as he examined the contents. "This is extensive," he said finally. proof of corruption at the highest levels, enough to force both sides to the negotiating table. He looked at Star with respect. You risked everything to save this. We both did, Star typed, gesturing at Jack. He chose to help when others turned away. Over the next few days, Dr. Light's team worked carefully to spread the truth through secure channels. They sent copies of the evidence to honest officials on both sides, to independent news networks, and to civilian leaders who weren't part of the corruption. The response was immediate and powerful. Protests erupted on both Pure Domain and Confederation worlds. Military officers, disgusted by how they'd been used, refused to fight. The corrupt leaders tried to maintain control, but without their armies, they had no power. Jack watched it all from the sanctuary, where he and Star had been given safe quarters. Looks like your people are finally talking to each other instead of fighting, he said, showing her the news reports. Star's patterns rippled happily as she typed. Perhaps now. No one must be perfect. Just good. A week later, Dr. Light called them to his office. The new coalition government wants to thank you both, he said. They're offering rewards, official positions, whatever you want. Jack looked at Star, who was already typing. Want to help here. Learn healing. Teach others. I thought you'd say that. Dr. Light's patterns shifted, and what Jack had learned was a smile. We'd be honored to have you join us. He turned to Jack. And you, salvage operator. Jack pretended to think about it. Well, someone needs to go find supplies for this place. Medical equipment, food, technology. Sounds like a job for a salvage expert. As long as you don't mind me stopping by regularly to check on my friend here. Star's patterns brightened as she typed. Partners still. Always, kid. Jack smiled. Someone needs to keep you out of trouble. Dr. Light's translator crackled with amusement. Then it's settled. Though I suspect this is just the beginning of a much larger story. Looking at the former enemies working together in the sanctuary, at the news reports showing peace talks and reconciliation, at Star's bright patterns showing her joy at finding her true purpose, Jack had to agree. Some salvage operations, he had learned, were about more than just finding valuable things. Sometimes they were about saving something priceless, like hope, truth, and the chance for a better future. And that was worth more than all the spaceship parts in the galaxy.